Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to pick up from where we stopped in environmental health, where we had looked at the introduction to environmental health and looked at another concept of environmental toxicology. But for today, we are going to focus on environmental waste management. And my name is Rodney Mutunji, and I'll be taking you through this wonderful topic of environmental waste management. So, first off, the definition is that environmental waste management refers to the systematic and adequately handling waste materials to minimize their adverse environmental and public health impacts during the collection, transportation, treatment, and disposal of this waste, which should be done in a way that promotes sustainability, resource conservation, and prevention of pollution to the soil, to the water, to the air. So, waste categories include organic wastes, which consist of biodegradable materials like food scraps or the peelings of food and those leftover food. Yard trimmings that could arise from pruning of your yard or the fence or the compound grass, and we also have other natural substances which can be organic waste or which can be degraded by microorganisms. Then we have recyclable waste, which can be which is that can be processed and reused to manufacture new products like paper, plastics, glass, and other metals. Hazardous waste consists of those which have potential harm and require special handling and disposal, including chemicals like pesticides, batteries, electronic waste or e-waste, and medical waste. Non-recyclable waste, like the name suggests, is the category of waste that cannot be recycled or composted and requires proper disposal. Includes some of the plastics, styrofoam, or that material that is used as an insulator or as it is used in packaging of some of those items that shouldn't break. Like you've seen those boxes which contain TVs and that white material that is put underneath that TV to hold it in place and protect it from damage is what we called the styrofoam. It can also be used as a material in packaging of those fast foods and cans. And then we have e-waste or the electronic waste, including the discarded electrical or electronic devices like computers, smartphones, appliances like microwaves and fridges. So the rapid advancement of technology and their shorter product life cycles contributes to the growing volume of this e-waste for the electronic waste. We can't talk about waste management without talking about air pollution because some of these waste management programs or activities lead to air pollution. So air pollution is caused by releasing harmful substances into the atmosphere, and common sources of these include industrial emissions, vehicle exhausts, burning of fossil fuels, or for example, petrol, diesel that are used in those automobiles or cars, and open waste burning. So when you burn your waste in the open, it can also promote air pollution. So these pollutants can lead to respiratory problems, which can have a short or short-term onset, being acute, or which can come after some time being chronic. It can also have cardiovascular diseases arising from air pollution. So these cardiovascular diseases attack the heart and the blood vessels and other health adverse health effects like cancer from air pollution. Then soil pollution is caused by the accumulation of pollutants in the soil, often due to improper waste disposal, industrial activities and use of pesticides and fertilizers, and contaminated wastewater irrigation. So soil pollution can affect soil fertility, it can contaminate food crops and pose risks to human health through direct exposure or ingestion. So through use of pesticides, you can contaminate these food crops. Recently, we were investigating the amount of pesticides that you can ingest through tomatoes, whose growth has been a product of use of these pesticides. So the results that we got there were so alarming, and they could tell that while it is good to use these pesticides to keep away these pests, we end up getting health effects from consuming these products, so these food crops. So there can also be an effect on the ecosystems and biodiversity, because contamination of air, water, and soil will lead to loss of biodiversity, disruption of ecosystems, and degradation of habitats. So pollutants can enter the food chain uh, from any level, and this affects the various organisms and potentially cause population decline and sometimes species extinction. So, like we said in environmental toxicology, when a fish is in water and gets into contact with pesticides that have been run off into that water, it can be eaten by another fish, and that fish will have more accumulation of this pesticide. That fish can also be consumed by human being, and that human being will also get that effect. So you can see the problem with all this. Remember, there's pesticides being in water, or some fertilizers being in water can encourage algal growth or algae to be on top of that water, which can prevent oxygen from the reaching into the deep layers of the water, and this means that there will be destruction of the habitats in that aquatic environment. So the impact of wastes on health is that it can have acute and chronic health effects such as respiratory problems. You can have skin disorders due to contact with these wastes. Neurological disorders like lowered IQ, can have problems with movements. We've also seen issues of seizures due to exposure to some of these wastes. Then cancers can arise from chronic exposure to some of these wastes. Then inadequate waste disposal can also attract disease vectors like rats and insects, which contribute to transmitting diseases like dengue fever, that is transmitted by mosquitoes, and cholera, transmitted by those house flies that can be on the waste. So, waste related pollutants can contaminate water sources, leading to waterborne diseases such as diarrhea, infective hepatitis, and typhoid fever. The role of ourselves in waste management, or the public health officials, is to monitor and do surveillance, monitor how wastes are being waste management is being conducted, how are they being recycled, how are they being disposed of, and surveillance majorly includes getting to know the diseases that are rising due to improper disposal of these wastes. Risk assessment could involve assessing for the risks that arise from this improper disposal of these wastes. Education and advocacy to promote waste proper waste management. Policy development, uh, which will include putting in place policies and regulations that stipulate what should be done and the penalties of not doing so in terms of waste management. Collaboration and partnerships to involve all the stakeholders that can improve this waste management. So methods of waste segregation include use of separate containers or bins for different waste streams. You can have color coding systems or labeling that will indicate the type of waste. For example, you can say the green bin will be for organic waste or that waste that can be biodegradable. The blue bin to be for those wastes that can be recyclable, and the red for the waste that is hazardous, then black for waste which is non-recyclable. So in waste segregation, we can also employ innovative technologies like automated sorting systems and optical sensors to aid in efficiently segregating this waste automatically by identifying and sorting those different materials based on their properties. So these technologies will make sure that this process of segregation is efficient and will enhance this waste management process. So segregation of waste requires that you engage the public. The public should be informed about its importance through educating them and to create awareness. And this can be done by through workshops, seminars, through community meetings, and involving their leaders. And this includes guidelines on proper waste segregation, how they can sort these waste, the benefits of recycling the waste, and the environmental consequences of improper waste disposal. So you have to make sure that you package your education or your promotion activity, your waste segregation promotion activity in such a way that you inform the public about the benefits of recycling, tell them about the consequences or the negative effects of improper waste disposal, like diseases, like water pollution, air pollution, and all that could affect their health when there is improper waste disposal. So, implementing incentive programs such as offering discounts and or rewards for proper waste segregation and recycling will encourage people and businesses actively participate in this waste management effort. So you can put in place those rewards for people who collect waste very well or who do not have it around their premises. And you can also liaise with the businesses to make sure that they reward people who bring back, for example, the packaging material so that they reuse it and do not create unnecessary waste. So you can liaise with such businesses and they give discounts to such individuals so that it motivates them to take part in this waste management effort. Then Waste auditing or waste audits can help identify the composition of waste generated and assess the effectiveness of the waste segregation efforts. So this information will guide future strategies and will also guide on the improvements in the waste management systems that are in place. So the waste auditing will involve collaborating with waste management providers and recycling facilities so that you can establish effective waste segregation systems. And this partnership ensures that the collected waste is appropriately processed, recycled, or disposed of in line with environmental regulations. So, regular monitoring and evaluating the waste segregation process helps assess the effectiveness and identify areas of improvement in that waste management uh, effort. So it includes tracking and recycling and waste diversion rates and the impact on reducing the waste sent to the landfills. So here you want to track the recycling rate or the rate at which those materials which can be recycled are returned are put in into places of recycling, and then the that impact of you also want to see the rate at which waste is being diverted from reaching the landfill, because we as we shall see, the landfill is like the final burial place of this waste. But before it reaches there, there could be avenues of diverting it so that the waste that reaches the landfill is less than what is produced. It can be reused, it can be recycled, and it can also be composted, as we shall see in a bit. So, in sustainable waste management, we have the 3R approach, which involves reducing waste, reusing it, and recycling it. So, in reducing it, you want to encourage conscious consumption. An individual should be able to think before they consume any product, avoid unnecessary packaging, and opt for reusable products to minimize waste generation. So, whenever you're going to purchase something that can be reused, not single-use items. Okay, those items that are packed in disposable materials, which have to be disposed of as soon as you're done using that, are not environmentally friendly and they shouldn't be encouraged. Okay, but instead use those products that can be reused. Okay, that reduce unnecessary packaging. Instead of using uh, buveras or those plastic bags, then you should encourage using paper bags, which can be reused on your next visit to the shop. Or if you're carrying a backpack at your back, there is no need for you to get a paper bag from that shop. Use your bag to pack whatever you have shopped. Okay? Then, if you can't do that, go to the next R, which is reuse. Promote initiatives like donating, repairing, repurposing items to extend their lifespan and reduce the need for new products. So, if you have an item and you no longer use it, but someone else can use it, donate it. Okay? If something of yours is torn, instead of you throwing it away to create unnecessary waste, why not repair it? Okay? If you have a sack, Instead of you throwing it away to create waste, why not put some soil in it, and you grow some vegetables in it, you know, in that repurposing bit of this reuse, so that you extend that lifespan and you do not create unnecessary waste. Then in recycling, here you want to emphasize that recyclable materials are separated from non-recyclables, and you support those recycling programs whereby you process that which has been which can be recycled, and then uh, it can be turned into a useful product once again. So even in this recycling principle, when you're purchasing, you choose products that are made from materials which can be recycled. So in sustainable waste management, we have waste hierarchy, which includes prevention, minimization, treatment, and disposal. So if you can't prevent uh, this waste from being collected, then you want to minimize its collection. If you can't minimize, you want to treat it. If you can't treat it, dispose of it well. So in prevention, implement sustainable production practices, environmentally friendly design, and efficient resource management to prevent waste generation. So you want to prevent as much waste being generated as possible. Then in minimization, practice waste segregation, source reduction, or uh, reducing waste generation at the source, and then responsible consumption to minimize the volume and toxicity of the waste. Treatment utilizes methods such as composting, recycling, and energy recovery to extract value from waste materials and reduce environmental impacts. Then in disposal, you ensure that there is responsible landfill management for waste that cannot be uh, recycled or reused. So in continuation, principles of sustainable waste management include extended product responsibility and product stewardship. So in extended product responsibility, you hold the producers accountable for the environmental impact of their products throughout their life cycle. You encourage design of products which are easy to recycle. There should be take back programs for some of those wastes, like the e-waste. Those producers should be able to have programs where you can take back whatever electronic device you're no longer using, and they can either recycle it or dispose it in a responsible manner. And then sustainable waste management practices. Then in product stewardship, you promote responsible you promote shared responsibility among the manufacturers, the retailers, the consumers, and the waste management authorities. All the responsibility should not be put on the waste management authorities, but we should share the responsibility. The manufacturers should have a responsibility on the products that they are putting out there. The retailers should also have that responsibility of not giving unnecessary packaging. The consumers should also be cautious on whatever they consume. Is the product made out of recyclable material? Okay, so that we can adopt sustainable product design, safe product use, and proper disposal systems. A method that is used before to reduce the volume of waste before we reach the landfill is composting and vermicomposting. And in composting, we utilize the natural decomposition of organic waste through microorganisms uh, such as such as bacteria, fungi, and in this case, we are focusing on organic waste like food scraps or leftovers or food peelings of matoke, potatoes, and then that yard waste as a result of trimming the yard, slashing the compound, all that. So during composting, microorganisms break down this organic matter into nutrient-rich humus or manure, which can be used as a soil amendment or that manure. So the process requires a mix of organic waste. It requires oxygen and moisture plus proper temperature. So the benefit of this composting is that it adds essential nutrients to the soil, improves its fertility and the structure, promotes healthy plant growth, and reduces the need for chemical fertilizers, which would end up polluting this soil. So it also this composting enhances the water holding capacity, and remember, soil needs this water for plant growth. Plants need this water. The animals in this soil, which promote this plant growth, also need this water. Then the composting also improves aeration. It improves the ability to retain nutrients and support sustainable agriculture and other gardening practices. Then, because the waste should end up in the landfill, if it is composted, meaning that we have diverted that waste. So there is waste diversion as a very good benefit of this composting, which will reduce the methane emissions and greenhouse gas contributions that could have arisen from this waste going to the landfill. Then another type of composting is vermicomposting, whereby we utilize earthworms instead of just microorganisms. So these earthworms will consume the organic waste and excrete nutrient-rich castings, resulting in faster decomposition and higher quality compost. The advantage of using this vermicomposting or earthworms is that in this case, the organic matter will be broken down faster than that traditional composting. It will result in enhanced nutrient availability because the vermicompost or that compost that results from this decomposition by earthworms contains higher nutrients, enzymes, and beneficial microorganisms, making it an excellent soil amendment or manure for plant growth. But also, these earthworms introduce beneficial bacteria and microorganisms into the compost, which further enhances its quality and soil fertility. Okay? So, earthworms do not just decompose alone, they also introduce these bacteria and other microorganisms into the compost, which makes the soil richer in nutrients and fertility. Then another method of reducing the waste that goes to the landfill or the final burial place of the waste is incineration, which is a waste treatment method that involves very high temperature combustion of or burning of waste material. If you have gone to hospitals, to some schools, you have seen these incinerators. Okay, they utilize very high temperature, sometimes going beyond to thousands of degrees of Celsius. In schools, they are used to burn those menstrual hygiene materials used by the ladies. And then in hospitals, they are also used to burn the hazardous waste that is collected in hospitals. So the process reduces the volume of the waste, of course, and it generates the heat. It generates heat or electricity in that process. So there is waste volume reduction, which minimizes the need for landfills and saves valuable space. Imagine all that waste that is incinerated, or all that waste that is coming from these healthcare facilities being taken to the landfill. First of all, there is a lot of hazardous risks from such waste. Another thing is that they will consume valuable space. But here you are incinerating them, meaning that you're going to save such valuable space, you're going to save the environment from such hazards, the environment and the people. But even uh, to add on that, to make it even better, we generate energy which is renewable from these incinerators. The heat generated during this incineration can produce steam, which will be converted into electricity. So these waste to energy facilities play a crucial role in generating renewable energy from waste. So in advanced technologies of these incinerators, it is essential to highlight that in modern incineration facilities, you they control emissions from these incinerators, they capture pollutants, and they reduce environmental impacts by these incinerators. So instead of them producing these emissions that could pollute the air, they are captured and sometimes be used as a source of renewable energy. Then another method that we could use to prevent or to divert waste from going, some waste from going to the landfill, is anaerobic digestion. So anaerobic digestion utilizes microorganisms that do not require oxygen to break down organic waste. So during anaerobic digestion, microorganisms will convert this organic waste, like we have mentioned, which could include the leftover food, the food peelings, the yard trimmings. So it will make sure these microorganisms that breaks down this organic matter or organic waste without using oxygen. It will be the microorganisms will convert this organic waste into biogas, primarily consisting of methane, which would which ideally is a potent greenhouse gas or a gas that can damage the ozone layer, which protects the earth from the harmful effects of UV light from the sun, and also carbon dioxide. So if you have methane and carbon dioxide, then you can produce this biogas as a result of anaerobic digestion. And this biogas is a renewable energy source. So biogas can be used to produce electricity. It can also be used to produce heat, and it can also be used as a transportation fuel. So when it does that, it means that we have reduced reliance on fossil fuels, which already have a very detrimental effect on our environment. We have lowered greenhouse gas emissions that could have resulted from methane, but we have also done what we call waste diversion. whereby the anaerobic digestion diverts the organic waste from landfills, reducing methane emissions and minimizing environmental impact of waste disposal. Now we look at the final burial ground of this waste, which is the landfill. So the landfill management and gas recovery involves proper landfill management, which is crucial to minimize environmental contamination and mitigate the negative impacts of waste disposal, which includes designing and operation of this landfill. So designing of the landfill is of very, very big importance to prevent leaching or downward movement of contaminants from the waste into the soil surrounding that environment, around that, surrounding that landfill, and the water or the groundwater below that soil. So when you do that, you protect the human health and the environment, because humans could survive from that soil and even the groundwater. So these landfills are engineered structures designed to contain and isolate waste materials from the surrounding environment safely. So the components of this landfill design to prevent leachate contamination are as follows. They include liner systems, which are essential barriers to prevent leachate migration or that liquid that can percolate from the west downwards uh, in that landfill and contaminate the groundwater. So the primary purpose of this liner is to protect the underlying soil and groundwater from contamination from this leachate or the liquid that could seep downwards. And this liner system typically consists of multiple layers, including the following: one, the low permeability layer, which is the down one, which is typically made of clay or synthetic geomembranes like polythene of high density, and this acts as that primary barrier to prevent the downward movement of this liquid or the leachate from the waste that has been dumped in the landfill. Then we have a geosynthetic clay liner or GCL, which is a composite material combining geotextiles and bentonite clay, providing an additional barrier against leachate migration. Then the geotextile layer protects and cushions the liner from punctures during landfill operations, like turning of that uh, of that waste in the landfill. You know, those garbage trucks turning around. All that could puncture these these liners. So for you to protect them, you use this geotextile layer. Then a protective soil layer, which is placed on top, and this layer also provides further protection against damage and serves as a planting medium for vegetation in the final cover system. So in that final cover system, we have this protective soil layer, which will make that landfill more stable and less susceptible to being accessed by wind blowing away some of that waste, and or, or running water also taking away some of that waste that we don't want to run off to the nearby water sources. Then we have leachate collection systems as one of the engineering systems that are put in place to protect the landfill. And these are designed to collect and remove the leachate which is generated within the landfill. They consist of a system of perforated pipes, like you will see in a visual that I've put in. and these pipes are placed at the base of the landfill above the liner system. So these pipes collect the leachate and convey it to the collection tanks, which can where it can be treated or safely disposed of. So by effectively collecting and managing the leachate, the potential of contaminating groundwater or the surface water is significantly reduced. Like we had said earlier, we have landfill cover systems, which are the final cover systems that are placed on top of the waste in a landfill to minimize waste water infiltration into the waste mass. And this water infiltration or water gaining access to the waste could create more leachate or more of that liquid that could contaminate groundwater or the water or the surface water nearby the landfill. So these cover systems serve several purposes, and one of them is stormwater management. The cover system is designed to shed or take away that rainwater and direct it away from the landfill, reducing the amount of water that goes into the waste in the landfill. Then we have gas management, whereby the methane gases from the organic waste in the landfill are collected and efficiently trapped by this gas management. Then erosion control system protects the landfill slopes from erosion, which would have caused contamination of the surface water. So also remember, when there is erosion, the landfill will not be stable. Okay, so this erosion control system comes in handy to make sure that the landfill is more stable and there is prevention of that soil loss from the covering system of the landfill. The vegetation support makes the landfill also more stable and provides a medium for vegetation growth, making it less susceptible to being for the waste to be blown away by by the wind and running water. Then we have the monitoring system, which makes sure that there is compliance with environmental regulations and promptly detects and addresses any potential issues. So when there is harmful methane gas being produced by these landfills, when there is leaching of that leachate and maybe potential harm to the groundwater, monitoring will come in to make sure that these undesirable changes are detected in time and there is improvement put in place, or there are measures put in place to address some of those issues. Then gas recovery, as we said, landfills produce landfill gas, which is primarily composed of methane from as the waste, which is organic, decomposes. So we also have greenhouse gas reduction. This landfill gas that contains methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas, will be captured and utilized so that we reduce its release to the atmosphere and mitigate its impact on climate change. Then utilization of energy or energy utilization. This landfill gas, the methane that has come out of that decomposition of organic waste, can be collected and used as a renewable energy source for electricity generation, heat, and the transportation fuel, which, as we said earlier on, is a good substitute for fossil fuels. Then we have utilization of this landfill gas contributing to sustainable energy production and reducing reliance on fossil fuels, as said. Environmental protection by capturing and properly managing this landfill gas will prevent its migration into surrounding environment, which minimizes the risk of explosion, bad smells or other issues, and potential health hazards due to this landfill gas. So the landfill has been illustrated in that image, whereby we have those liner systems which prevent the leachate that could arise from the waste in the landfill from contaminating the surrounding soil and the groundwater. But also we have the covering soil and the vegetation that protects the waste from being blown away by wind and the running water. Then we also have stormwater diversion channels to protect the landfill and make it more stable. But I would encourage each one of us to visit a physical landfill to appreciate some of the things that we have looked at in that illustration and gain more insight on the design of a landfill. So we need to appreciate that public participation in waste management as well as the waste segregation, as talked about earlier, is very important, and it is very crucial for the success of waste management initiatives because it fosters that sense of ownership and responsibility among the individuals and communities. So active public involvement enhances waste reduction efforts, promotes behavior change, which is very essential in waste management, and it strengthens the overall system of waste management. So, how can we promote this public participation? Engage the public by educating and creating awareness through campaigns, through meetings, through social gatherings, events, and partnerships to foster that sense of collective responsibility and encourage active participation. During these campaigns and these advocacy kind of meetings, you want to make sure that the public gets to know about the importance of waste management and what their role is in that waste reduction, in waste recycling, and the effects of improper waste management. So you can also promote this public participation using volunteer programs, which include individuals that can contribute their time and efforts towards waste management activities such as beach cleanups, neighborhood cleanups, recycling drives. Then we can also use the advantage of social media or online platforms to disseminate information, to create awareness, to advocate for these waste management measures, to make sure that people are informed about waste and how to manage, how to reduce waste, how to consume cautiously with waste management at the back of their minds, and encourage discussions on sustainable waste practices through social media and online platforms. Then we cannot achieve waste management or proper waste disposal or proper waste reduction without promoting behavior change. So emphasize the need of individuals to adopt certain behaviors that contribute to waste reduction and proper waste management. So the individuals should rethink their consumption patterns. They should think towards using items that are not just single use, which you'll use and throw away. You should think about how to donate items to people who can use them instead of just throwing them away. Should should think about repurposing some of these items that are being that could contribute to unnecessary waste. Like I said, if you have a sack, instead of you throwing it away and create and polluting the soil, why not put soil in it and and do some backyard gardening, planting some vegetables which are good for your health. Okay, so some of those behavior change mechanisms can be employed here to promote public participation. Then sustainable practices, we have waste reduction, promoting practices like compost, composting organic waste, reducing packaging waste and avoiding unnecessary packages will go a long way in promoting these sustainable practices or reducing waste, because when you have composting, then the waste, this organic waste that could have ended up in the landfills will be reduced. Proper recycling first has to include educating the individuals on proper recycling practices, including sorting recyclables from non-recyclables, using recycling facilities effectively and avoiding contamination, and making sure that you do responsible consumption, which includes advocating for responsible purchasing decisions, considering the life cycle of products. Are they single use? How can they be disposed of? You know, what is their impact on the environment? Choosing environmentally friendly options and supporting local and sustainable businesses. So we shouldn't always run for these businesses which produce products that are not environmentally friendly. Instead, we should support these local businesses which use available resources and are environmentally friendly. Then the importance of collaboration is that effective waste management will require this collaboration among all the stakeholders. You should leverage on the diverse expertise, the resources, the networks from all these stakeholders. Get input from the government agencies who, which are responsible for policy formulation, and legislation. Get input from the community organizations, because they are the people who are going to rally the community members to support this project of waste management. The NGOs could have expertise on proper waste disposal and how to innovate new initiatives in that direction. Businesses have a very, very crucial uh, role to play in 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 waste reduction, recycling, and the overall management of waste, because they are the producers and they should be responsible for all that is going to end up becoming waste. Then engaging stakeholders means that you have to collaborate with, like I said, the local, the regional government agencies to develop waste management policies and regulations and infrastructure, because sometimes it is always hard for for infrastructure to be put in place without involvement of the government. Then community organizations and NGOs, they help in engaging the community in they also help in creating environmental advocacy, and they contribute to the expertise that is always needed in those waste management ventures, business and industries to promote sustainable practices of waste management, to explore waste reduction initiatives and support circular economy models, which include sustainable production, also includes reasoned consumption by the people that are buying the goods, and then efficient waste management. So all this is also something that the business and industry should be interested in. Then another stakeholder that cannot be underestimated is the academic institution like ours here, which should take part in research, in innovation, in sharing of knowledge as far as waste management is concerned. So, what are some of those emerging environmental waste issues that we need to interest ourselves in as public health officials? One of them is e-waste. Like I said earlier on, because of advancement of technology and the shorter product life cycles of these electronic devices, we have a rise in e-waste. We have discarding of electronic devices like computers, smartphones, microwaves, water heaters, all those. Because there is this advancement of technology, we want to do things fast, but also there is a lot of duplication, and some of these have shorter product life cycles. We have a very huge amount of electronic waste. And the challenge is that there is always improper disposal. People discard this e-waste inappropriately, which leads to this environmental contamination. We have lack of recycling infrastructure. Okay, there are still insufficient facilities to recycle this waste. This waste is hazardous in nature, has contains heavy metals like mercury, lead, cadmium, and many others which pose grave risks like cancer if not handled properly. But the good bit is that we have solutions to some of these problems, which could include proper e-waste recycling, especially using the businesses that produce some of these products. So they should be engaged in recycling e-waste responsibly through designated recycling centers or manufacture take back programs whereby they take back their old or products that are no longer useful to the end user. Then extended producer responsibility involves implementing policies that will hold the manufacturers responsible for the end of life management. These manufacturers shouldn't just produce these e-wastes. We've had a good story by one of the producers of these electronics like Apple, whereby in a bid to promote this this proper management of their of the waste that could arise from their products, they tend to make sure that they first of all they reduce the size of their electronics, and then second of all they reduce on what is coming in the package. So uh, instead of putting for you a charger, they can let you use the charger that was that you had with your previous iPhone. Instead of you buying another charger, now you can use the charger of of your previous iPhone if it can still work. So such innovations in that direction can help reduce or create solutions for this e-waste. Then plastics. are also a pressing global issue due to widespread use of plastics and their negative impact on the environment. So over the years, they have led to pollution of the oceans, rivers, and land. And the challenge is that there is insufficient infrastructure for recycling the plastics, and this means that they end up in landfills, water bodies, and natural ecosystems like soil. Then we have companies which utilize single use plastics, and this makes the environment full of such plastics like bottles, bags, packaging material. Then we also have a challenge of microplastic contamination, which could be those small plastic raw materials and the small products of the plastics after degradation. So the microplastics are found in various environments and sometimes they are ingested by organisms, potentially entering in the food chain, which is very dangerous. So the solution to some of these problems of plastics will include reduction in consumption of plastics, encouraging individuals to and businesses to minimize use of those single-use plastics and opt for reusable alternatives, effective recycling programs whereby we can implement policies to ensure proper collection, sorting, and recycling of plastic waste. Innovations can be in the direction of promoting the development and use of biodegradable plastics and alternative materials and innovative recycling technologies. So here we want to shift from plastics and use other materials, which can be either more recycled in a better way or they can be of a less effect to the health of the environment and the people. But the challenge also there is that some of those materials are always more expensive. For example, if you want to shift from the plastic bottle to glass in packaging of soda, you will realize that in that case, the producers of this soda will have to increase the price of the soda, or they will end up reducing the production of this soda, which they do not want. They do not want to cut the sales of their sodas. So in the end, they will they might end up continuing the production of this plastic. But what we should be thinking about is innovating ways of making sure that the plastic that they produce, even to deliver this soda, should be made by a material that can be recycled, like that PET which I talked about is good for that packaging of plastic. Then climate change and waste. Climate change cannot be taken away from waste management because extreme weather events and climate change effects uh, impact greatly on the infrastructure and generation patterns of this waste. So the challenge here is that increased flooding and erosion will lead to more frequent will damage this waste management infrastructure. For example, if you looked at that landfill, if there is flooding, ultimately that soil cover will be taken off, and this, that that this waste could end up in the surface water nearby, which will pollute that water. Then disruption of water services due to those climate related events will disrupt, cause the waste collection and disposal services, leading to delays sometimes and the potential health hazards. So, for example, some wastes need to be generated well, especially those chemicals which spill over need water for you to wash them off the surface. So if you have disruption in those water surfaces, then there will be that delayed waste collection. And when there is that delay, there is always potential health risk or a potential health hazard. So the solutions to this is to build or put in place climate resilient infrastructure by designing and implementing management systems that withstand and adapt to climate related challenges. These landfills should be designed in a way that is resilient to these changes like floods. Even when we are preparing for disasters, in disaster preparedness, we need to make sure that we have the waste management programs at the back of our mind. So you develop contingency plans or emergency plans that ensure continuity of these waste management services even during those disasters. Another very crucial solution could be to mitigate the climate change itself. And how do you do that? How better to do it than to promote waste to energy technologies in these waste management initiatives? So you turn this waste into energy, and when you turn it into energy and reduce the the environmental effect of this waste, you will have averted or mitigated climate change that would have caused all these problems. Okay? If you turn methane gas that could have been collected from this landfill, you turn it into renewable energy or biogas, then you will end up shielding the environment from the effects of that greenhouse gas that could have destroyed the ozone layer, causing that climate change. So you hit two stones you hit two birds with one stone. Okay, so you're you're mitigating climate change and also managing this waste. Okay, but also you're generating energy. Okay, so such are the innovations that should be put in place to mitigate the effects of this climate change. Equity and environmental justice in this waste management can also not go without being talked about, because we realize that marginalized communities, especially those with low income, have always been disproportionately affected by these waste management practices. These waste facilities, like landfills, are always located near such communities, and that, of course, creates a lot of health hazards, creates a lot of nuisance by those undesirable smells from those landfills. So we try to address this equity and environmental justice issue by making sure that these people participate in all this when we are planning and implementing these waste management uh, efforts. We should include all the people, even from these marginalized communities. Okay, so like I said, these people are always disproportionately affected by these undesirable effects of waste management, because for one reason or another, their areas of residence are always near such waste management facilities like landfills, okay? Because they have always had limited participation and representation in those efforts of creating such measures. So, the solution to all this can be incorporating equity and environmental justice principles whenever we are designing, we are planning, and making decisions in waste management. So, another solution could be community involvement. Involve the communities, especially from these marginalized people, in implementing waste management strategies so that you hear from them what is their take and how best can we make sure that we manage this waste without putting their health at risk. Then targeted interventions. Here you implement targeted programs and initiatives prioritizing waste management improvements in disadvantaged communities, including access to recycling facilities and waste reduction programs. Then the importance of innovation in waste management is that it addresses emerging waste management challenges like we have looked at, especially now like e-waste, those microplastics, and this requires research and development which play a key role in finding the new solutions, new technologies and approaches to manage waste. So the opportunities to for the innovation can include researching and developing innovative recycling technologies, especially now for those emerging wastes like e-waste, exploring circular economy principles to minimize waste generation and maximize resource efficiency. Like I said, those principles include uh, that those principles of circular economy will include things like sustainable production. We shall also have reasoned consumption by the people who buy those products, and also efficient waste management so as to achieve circular economy. So there should always be that sustainable production, or the producers or those industrial people taking responsibility for the products that they put out there. Are they and they should be environmentally friendly. The consumer that is going to to buy and use this product should also be cautious of what they are taking home. Is it a single use? Is it going to create more waste around them? Okay. And in all this, we should make sure that we have efficient waste management. Then another opportunity for innovation to is in research on how we can turn waste to energy. We saw some of them like biogas, but we can have others. Then utilizing data analytics and data and digital technologies to make sure that we have efficient collection, sorting, and treatment processes. We saw sensors. How about we innovate more technologies to make sure that we sort, we collect, and we treat this waste in a proper way? Collaboration and knowledge sharing is very important, especially between the academia or the scholars, industry, government agencies, so that we foster research and innovation in this waste management sector. Then we should establish platforms and networks for knowledge sharing and dissemination of best practices in waste management. We should always have those platforms or those dashboards that tell us or give us up to date information on how to manage waste. we share knowledge on how to innovate uh, more practices as far as waste management is concerned. And with this, we are going to achieve better goals as far as waste management is concerned. And this brings us to the end of this session where we've looked at the waste, we've appreciated the different types of waste, different management methods of waste. We've also looked at uh, environmental justice in waste management and the opportunities for innovation and the rising issues or emerging issues in waste management. And this brings us to the end, like I said, and I shall see you on the next one. Thank you so much for your time.